I'm standing here in the center of Reyn Speed Shop, and I want to take the time to feature this E46 M3 because it has a lot of meaning for me, because it was a car that I owned from new back in 2002. I had the car, Ray is now the caretaker for it, and a lot of the parts on the car I actually did throughout the years, even before PSI, and now Ray has continued with the theme of the car. So let me get started with the outside. This has a Vorsteiner VCSL front bumper. It's a copy of the OEM CSL bumper. Back in the day when Vorsteiner started, they made a lot of pieces for the E46 M3. This bumper is a really great piece because it has the perfect fitment, just like the OEM CSL. This color is not a CSL color. It's actually titanium silver, which is a super popular color we see a lot on the E46 M3. And originally this car had Emola red interior from the factory, which I've actually upgraded, which I'm going to show you a little bit later. Continuing on to the side, I actually had the OEM, but Ray actually added the CSL little button here that's in the grill, which is OEM CSL, which is super neat, and you don't really see a lot because it's really difficult to get. And that matches the overall theme. This is not a CSL clone, but the best pieces that are period for this car are on this car from BMW and from Vorsteiner, along with some other aftermarket parts. And one of those aftermarket parts, which you guys can see in the camera now, is the StopTech big brake kit. This is a 380mm front and rear kit from StopTech, and the neat thing about it, they actually fit with the OEM CSL wheels. You need a little bit of a spacer. You guys will also see some extended lugs there, which we do on a lot of these cars in the shop when people want to change a lot of wheels. It also gives it just a little bit more of a track sort of specific look, which I always like. So everything on the side, like I said, besides the badge and these wheels, are stock. Now let's move to the back, and I'm going to show you some of the really special pieces from BMW. So let me start with the most rare piece that's here in the back. This is actually an OEM CSL carbon diffuser. And a lot of people don't know that the whole entire piece, this whole rectangular section here, is actually full carbon. A lot of other people don't know too that when you buy these pieces from BMW, they're actually pre-painted. OEM CSLs only came in black sapphire or sapphire black and silver gray. So when I actually bought this OEM CSL piece from BMW, it was sapphire black. So it had to be painted. Brad, of course, did that at Samuel's back in the day. And this particular one was also something that Vorsteiner copied. Vorsteiner made copies of these to look just like this, but also there's been many variants now that the car's 20 years old. Some people run full carbon, some people have a modified one, but this is a legitimate OEM CSL one, really cool piece. Really difficult to get. And you guys will notice these are not the stock tips. This is an Eisenman race exhaust. It's one of my favorite exhausts for the E46 M3. I put it on my car. We do it on a lot of the builds that we do at the shop and a lot of the restorations we do. Eisenman, these are 83mm tips. Great size for the back. And now moving up to the car, this is another OEM piece from the CSL. It's the full trunk lid. And a lot of people know you can still get these, but BMW doubled the price recently to get them. It's about a $4,000 piece. It's not carbon fiber. It's actually quite heavy. It's about as heavy as the metal trunk, but the fitment on the OEM piece is amazing because of the way it's made. It's a really high quality piece, and it's really one of the most things that you recognize on a CSL or when you're driving. And many people have copied it over many cars, and there's many manufacturers that make trunks like this, but nothing fits like the OEM, which is why I got it for this car. Just really completes the back. This is a 2002 year, but we actually went ahead with the LCI tails in the back also to give it that updated look, just like the CSL had. So that pretty much sums up the outside of this particular E46 M3, but let me take you guys to the inside and I'll show you my favorite part of the whole car. So now we're inside, and this is my favorite place to be. Way back in the day, probably, it had to be 15 years ago, I actually bought a full interior for an E46 M3 CSL from a guy I knew in the UK who was race prepping CSLs from new for customers. And obviously as a race car, they were not running any of the interior. This is actually a full OEM interior. I did not opt for the rear, so the rear seat is actually a speed cloth rear seat in this car. But these front seats, these door panels, this center console, all of this is all OEM CSL, which at the time was something that I just loved about the car. It's really some of the favorite parts that I've ever seen from BMW. It's some of my favorite stuff. And obviously the real M3 CSL E46 is one of my favorite cars BMW's ever made. Now, a lot of people know that these are Recaro kind of centers, but these were made specifically for BMW because they actually rise. There's actually a piece here that actually allows people to get in the back seat because the OEM CSL E46s have a real back seat. They actually tilt forward so people can get in the back, which is a cool look. And this is all the original mounts, all the way it's supposed to be. This is a OEM CSL console, and the thing you'll notice about the weave on a E46 CSL is it's 1x1. So it's 1x1 weave here in the center. And I actually changed this out for the AC snitzer. I used to have an AC snitzer knob here, and then I had the handbrake here as well. Ray's changed that out for more OEM feel, but this is a true console. And the cool thing about that is all of these trim pieces that make all of this fit, because normally you would have this control for the mirror, you'd have it over here in the door. We actually relocated that just like the factory car. This is actually the emergency lights and the unlock button here. There's actually a little Alcantara pad here as well for this where it mounts, which you can put the key in or whatever you want to put in there. But these seats are really neat seats. They're period for the car, and of course the Alcantara, which I love so much. Another thing you guys will notice in the car is I actually did a full Alcantara headliner, A pillar, B pillar, C pillar, and also the rear deck is all anthracite Alcantara. So the final piece of the interior that really completes it from the CSL look is the door sills. They have the waving flag door sill that was on the original cars from BMW. Really rare piece to find, and Ray was able to find it and make it a nice addition to the car to match all the other OEM CSL components in this. Now let me show you guys the final components that complete the build, which are under the hood. Now that we have the hood popped on the car, you guys will notice, of course, the first thing that you see is the CSL manifold. This one particular one is a Turner Motorsport edition of it. It's got the two-piece box. It has a large filter in there, just like the OEM cars had, and this larger snorkel piece off to the side. As a lot of you guys will know, we've covered in some other videos, there's a lot of different CSL boxes out there. There's actually the OEM boxes, which are still available. There's like 15 grand. There's some ones from Carbonius, from Turner Motorsport. There's Bemmer World boxes. We use a combination of many of them, actually, depending on the build and depending on what the customer wants to spend. They all are really good, but one of the most important components you need to have when you run this box is the tuning. And this particular car was tuned by Carl at Active Auto Work. It has the Alpha N tuning that you need to run this box. This car has a full exhaust. This is factory headers and everything, but has a stock exhaust with the Eisenman. And this pretty much is a really good example, again, of an OEM plus build that took it to the next level with all these OEM components from the CSL. Anytime I come out to spend time with Ray here at Reyn Speed Shop, it's always really cool to see my old E46 M3 that he's now the caretaker for. We're actually going to be featuring a lot of the cars you see behind me in some upcoming videos, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys next time.